In this video, I'm going to share 5 simple steps you can follow to take much better video quality with your DSLR or mirrorless camera. Coming right up. What's up everybody, my name is Sean, welcome to my tech channel. If this is the first time you're stopping by and you enjoy tech content like this, you might want to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you won't miss my future videos. As always, if you like this content, please remember to give it a like. So just real quick, the way I'm shooting this video is a little bit different than usual because I'm using my DSLR Canon 80D as a prop in this video. I couldn't obviously use this to shoot the video, so I'm using my DJI Osmo Pocket. I will put all the settings somewhere on the screen so you guys can see how I'm shooting this video right now. And then I'm also using my MacBook Pro to record the audio. So this is the first time I'm doing it this way. We'll see how it's gonna come out. So give it a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about the video and audio quality. Obviously, this is not my usual setup, but hopefully you guys can follow along. So about 10 years ago, when first I purchased my first DSLR camera, it was very intimidating. The camera has a lot of buttons on it. It's very heavy. You just really don't know initially what to do with all these buttons. There's a lot you can do to try to improve the quality of the video and photos you're taking with these cameras, but there's some basic fundamentals. In this video, I'm gonna share the 5 simple steps you should follow to avoid taking video in the auto mode, and at the end I'm going to share a 6th and bonus point. The 5 settings we're going to talk about are white balance, frame rate, shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. Setting the right white balance will help you get the right skin tone, get the right temperature of all the colors and the environment. If it's too cool or too warm and it's not set correctly, then you're not gonna get a good quality image. Typically, if you set the camera on auto white balance, it does an okay job, but the best way for you is to actually manually set it up. What you need is one of these gray cards. You can get them about $7-8 bucks from Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description below. And what you need to do is go ahead, take a picture of this card exactly where your model will be sitting. So for example, if I'm the subject and I'm filming myself, I need to put this card where I'm sitting and then take a picture of it. And then I will go to the menu and then find the custom white balance. And by default, it asks you if you want to use the most recent picture you've taken as a sample to go ahead set the white balance. Number 2, frame rate. You want to go ahead set your frame rate at 24 frames per second, and if you're shooting international, you want to set it at 25 frames per second. We're not gonna get too scientific about this, but just know that most professionally produced movies are shot close to 24 frames per second, so naturally our eyes are used to recognizing that frame rate as something that has a professional look to it. Number 3, let's talk about shutter speed. Whatever your frame rate is, in this case is 24 frames per second, we want our shutter speed to be double our frame rate. 2 times 24 will be 48. Now most cameras, you're not gonna be able to go set 1/48 of a second, but the closest to that is 1/50th of a second. The reason you want to set your shutter speed double your frame rate, because this way you get more of a natural motion blur. So if you look at the 2 images side by side, one is shot at 1/50th of a second shutter speed, and the other one, I have to look at my notes, but I'll put it somewhere on the screen. I think 1/1600th of a second. So the one that has a much faster shutter speed, you probably will notice the image and the flag movements is a little bit jittery, and it's too digitally and it doesn't look very smooth. So the natural motion blur that human eyes will see, the way you would duplicate that is by having a shutter speed that is double the frame rate. Number 4, aperture. Hey guys, sorry to cut in. As I was editing the video, I realized I forgot to tell you something important about your shutter speed. Depending on your shooting situation, sometimes you may be forced to use a different shutter speed. For example, some of the lights in your surroundings, they may cause some flicker, so you have to go to a different shutter speed to get rid of that flicker. Or if you're recording a screen and let's say the screen refresh rate is 60 Hertz, you have to shoot at 1/60th of a second so you can match the refresh rate of that screen, so your image will not flicker. Back to the video. Adjusting aperture will do two things to our image. The wider the aperture is, which is the opening of the lens, the more light you will let in, which means you are able to capture quality images even at lower light. But also at the same time, the wider the opening of the lens is, you're able to get a much shallower depth of field. That is when you're able to get that blurry background that you typically see in most professionally done movies. So this may be a bit of a personal preference, but typically the more blurry background and a shallow depth of field you have, it can give your image a more professional look. So that's why you want to shoot at a much higher aperture, which, by the way, higher aperture means lower f number. So for example, an f1.8, that is a wider aperture than f2.8. I do have a video that describes the relationship between your shutter speed, ISO, and aperture, since they all impact how much light you can capture in your image. I will put a link right up here, as well as in the description below. And last but not least, your ISO. The reason you want to typically set that last is you want to have your ISO as low as possible. Most cameras' lowest ISO setting is 100, and you want to set that as low as possible because the higher you go, yes, it will give you better ability to shoot in lower light, but also you can potentially introduce more noise in. So if you leave that ISO setting for the last step, that way you're not going to force unnecessary noise into your image if you don't have to. So once you're done with all of that, you still need to make sure your shot is properly exposed. The way you will check for that is you push the shutter button halfway down, and then you look at your exposure meter. And your exposure meter, you want to get your number as close to 0 as possible. Again, I have a video that talks about properly exposing your shot, and it is very important you watch that video in conjunction with this video so you can understand how you can properly use your aperture, ISO, and shutter speed to properly expose your shots. I'm not saying using auto setting is necessarily bad. Sometimes it may work just fine. My point is you should know how to set these 5 settings in your camera, so that way you, as the creator, you control the final look of the image and not the camera. When you're shooting with your camera, you can also change your picture profile. Depending on the camera you have, you typically will have different picture profiles available. It could be auto, portrait, landscape. The problem with most of these picture profiles are they bake in a certain level of contrast, saturation, and sharpness into the image, and then you're not going to be able to really edit that much. And because of the higher sharpness, saturation, and contrast, normally you're not getting that professional film look, and it looks more like a digital camera video. Depending on the type of camera you have, you may have some picture profiles available that will offer you more of a flat look. So one thing you can do, if you have a Canon camera, you can go ahead, select a neutral picture profile, and then turn down your saturation to 0, turn down your contrast to 0, and turn down your saturation just -1. And this will help you try to give you more of a flat look. If you want to take it even one step further, there is a free picture profile available. There are quite a few tutorials available how to install that. I will put a link down in the description below so you guys can follow along. That is called CineStyle. Personally, I shoot most of my videos, if not all of them, with that picture profile, and because of that I get much better dynamic range, so I can capture a lot more highlights and shadows and don't lose a lot of details. And later on in post-production, when I'm editing my videos, then I have the ability to go ahead, increase the sharpness, change the contrast, change my midtones to try to get that professional look that I'm after. So this is it, guys, the 5 steps plus the picture profile bonus tip I shared with you guys. Hopefully you guys learned something new. If you did, please give this video a like. If you have not subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Comment down below, let me know what type of camera are you shooting with, and also if you have any questions about any of these 5 steps plus the bonus tip I shared with you about picture profiles, and I will answer every single one of the questions I get to best of my abilities. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.